Captain's Stardate, Captain's Logbook, Captain's Stardate. Not too sure anymore, are we? Captain's Stardate, dunno, absolute light and all that. And it's propagating very brightly into here today, isn't it, the sun? When we say absurdities, we mean something that's so outlandishly not possible, right? Something that's beyond possible in a normal world, something that belongs in the twilight zone, okay? We're going to talk about the pyramids. When I say Giza weighs 6.5 million tons and it weighs the same as 65 aircraft carriers, you'd think that a lot of people would just stop for a second and go, but no. Straight after that comment, I was told hammer and chisel. The equivalent weight of 65 aircraft carriers was hammered and chiseled. And they used blocks and hammered sticks in and then broke the blocks down and yada yada yada. So I don't think, I have a funny feeling people are having trouble putting words and images together. Like you hear about an image and then the words that go with it don't mean anything. Because you're either so occupied with what you're thinking that you haven't got room or time for anything else in it. That must be what's going on. Let's get rid of the gang. And I know you want to see all the moon landings have been hotting up today and yesterday, haven't they? A few people, got a few things to say. Well, I've got a few things to say about it, but we've got to keep it friendly, don't we? So what I've had to do, and I've no choice, but to meet you halfway, not even halfway. It's just this inability, as people keep saying to me, your inability to understand anything is not reason enough to disbelieve it, or it's not reason enough that it didn't happen. And my answer is always, your disability to not be able to, I don't even know what I was going to say anymore. It's like a broken record, everybody thinking the same thing and not thinking what they're. So, on that note, Giza, on her own, weighs the equivalent of 65 Nimitz class aircraft carriers, okay? Hang on, look at that. I bet a load of you would just love to see this fall and dip you in the nose, wouldn't you? Right. No explanation for even one stone, right? It's day one of the pyramid building session. Right, we've just been cleared. We're building the pyramids, let's go. So they all rush down to the quarry with their copper hand tools. What happens? What happens? How do they get the first 2.5 ton stone out? How did they carve the 60 ton stone of granite and the other 20 ton stones and 10 ton stones of granite that are in the king's chamber? Giza, at 6.5 million tons, weighs the equivalent of 65 Nimitz class aircraft carriers. So what we've had to do is this. Now this is 65 Nimitz class aircraft carriers. All right, that's one. It's 8 by 8 is 64 and the one at the top makes it 65. So when we say the weight of 65 Nimitz class aircraft carriers, this is what we're saying. Now, those copper hand tools, right, or the chisel and the hammer and the chisel, the copper chisel or something. Look, they can have iron chisels. They could have pneumatic drills, in fact. Nobody belonging to the Egyptians carved the equivalent weight of 65 Nimitz class aircraft carriers out of any quarry using any amount of copper hand tools. You must understand this. These 65 Nimitz class aircraft carriers were loaded onto boats, apparently. I'm not sure what kind of pulleys they would have used. I mean, admittedly, they were all in 2.5 ton, 1 ton, 1.5 ton. A variety, because variety is the spice of life, innit? But this, if you see these, right, and still think that the Egyptians carved this lot out of any quarry, right, you have serious problems. You are detached from reality. You really are. Because this is what 65 Nimitz class aircraft carriers looks like. They had boats, didn't they? The little sailboats, right? Now, how would one carrier, one aircraft carrier, look at the size of it, go just taking these other 5? This one taking these other 5 in bits, chopped up into bits. How many men, the weight would it take to load all of those if they were cut up onto this? How on earth would a tiny sailboat, I say tiny, what, maybe this size were they? Or that size? This is an absurdity, okay? It did not happen. To think this happened is insane. This is, to the pyramids, what the 4.6 seconds for the sun to radiate its light, the distance of its own diameter, is to the speed of light. An absurdity. These things all have obvious ones, right? Big, obvious absurdities. This is just one of them on the Pyramid Giza. We then have, if built over 30 years, right? If Giza was built over 30 years, that's one of the things. The other one is 20 years now. I mean, it's ridiculous. If built in 30 years, 30 years is 10,950 days. If we divide 6.5 million by 10,950, we get the equivalent weight of 593 tons. That was the requirement every single day. We then went down to days, to hours, to 24 hours, and that's 24 tons every single hour. That's 6 tons every 15 minutes, people. Copper hand tools, chisels. You must go back to sleep and wake up better tomorrow if you still believe that, because the Egyptians had nothing to do with the pyramids. The pyramids are ancient, right? You can tell. This 4,500 years, the tide mark was lightning, or it was Napoleon and cannonballs, or it was just the wind, okay? So with the sand in it, and it's abrasive, 4,500 years. Big gouge out of Pyramid Giza, not the others though, only Giza. It's funny because not only is Giza the only one that has that tide mark, funnily enough, Giza is the tallest. Isn't that funny? And then underneath underneath the tide mark, believe it or not, all the pyramids seem to have the same water, well, I'm not going to say waterway pattern because that's ridiculous, isn't it? But see all the horizontal. Look, look. Oh no. People, thieves, ran up and they went up to the biggest of the pyramids and they look, probably carved them out with the same chisels that they carved the blocks out of the quarry originally. Sometimes you just have to go, you know what? I could be wrong, right? Because this is not even cognitive dissonance, this is just stubbornness now. It's being silly. But it's like there's this war going on. People don't care about what's really happening, they just want to win, they want to be right, right? I don't want to be right, I know I am right. It's obvious, right? But if people are seeing this stuff and still thinking that there's some kind of angle where the Egyptians pulled this out of the bag, then we have problemas, gente. Tenemos problemas en la cabeza. Why are there no hieroglyphs in the pyramids? It's a good question, isn't it? The Egyptians loved their hieroglyphs, didn't they? But there's not one inside the pyramids. Why? Why, with all that stuff that they did, why is there not something about how they were built? The Egyptians, if they were real, stumbled upon them, right? Nobody from this era, nobody right now, with all of the tools that they have, could recreate Giza. I bet they couldn't. It would take a lifetime, right? But this is what happens. Everybody goes, no, yes we could. It would cost this much and I reckon we could do it in 3 years. Just go and do one stone, please. Don't give us all the how long it would take to do the whole thing and how easy. This is all nyah. That's what everybody does. Everybody thinks everything is so easy, right? Nobody tries anything. Everybody thinks the Roma thing and checking Io out as it comes from behind Jupiter. It's easy, it's a piece of cake. Do it. You need to go out and do it. Everybody's believing this stuff, right? But not doing the practical. I have done the practical. I invite you to do the same. No, I'm not going to say why it's impossible. You go out and you find out for yourself. And when you've done it, we can write to each other and say, oh, I can't believe they all fell for it. Everybody just sits back, right? And everybody's telling them things. You know, this is that, and that's that, and oh, those conspiracy theorists, you don't want to listen to them. So this is what happened, and that's how they did this, and everybody's like, yeah, oh, okay, yeah. Nobody works anything out for themselves. You're being told, right? You're being lied to, on, like I said earlier on one of the posts, on a scale like we've never seen before, right? And it is just going. And all I am trying to do is put a break on a couple of these things, 3 things that would change everything. And they are obvious lies. The speed of light from the sun being 299,792 kilometers per second. The Egyptians building the pyramids. And what was the last one? Oh, the moon landings, of course, which seems to be heating up a bit, isn't it? It's like a little Bunsen burner on my body, isn't it? All the comments coming out. It's funny how it goes around in waves. It's probably because I drop things in waves, don't I? Just to keep things interesting. This is a Nimitz class aircraft carrier. Alexa, what are the dimensions of a Nimitz class aircraft carrier? Alexa? Oh, she's unplugged. If I saw that, I would have been throwing her off the bus. If we'd been on a bus, obviously she's sparking up now. Alexa, are you done? It's got some light. Yeah. Let's get a few details about the Nimitz class aircraft carrier. Alexa, Alexa. Now she's doing it on purpose. Alexa, how are you?
I've been trying a new vocation. To hear me in action, just say, talk like a real estate agent.
Alexa, talk like a real estate agent.
Minutes from shops, schools and restaurants. Look, 1,000 minutes is still minutes.
Alexa, that was very good.
If I made you smile, I'm glad that you said so. If I brightened your day, I'd say
Alexa, thank you. See,
anytime.
we got on just fine. Alexa, Nimitz class aircraft carriers. What are the dimensions?
Here's something I found on reference.com.
Ooh.
The height and width of an aircraft carrier varies according to its class, but this type of ship can be as tall as 200 feet and 120 to 250 feet wide. These ships need to be wide to enable aircraft to take off and land.
Ooh.
And they include space for storing and maintaining planes as well as housing a large crew.
5,500. Alexa, how much does a Nimitz class aircraft carrier weigh with all of the fuel, all of the ammunition, all of the planes, all of the staff, everything? 102
From
now.
NiGarQuest.com. This aircraft carrier has a displacement of more than 27,900 tons and at full military capacity is capable of reaching above 30,000 tons.
Alexa, how much does a Nimitz class aircraft carrier weigh?
Here is an answer from an Alexa Answers contributor that I translated. Aircraft carriers weigh around 88,000 tons. The steel structure alone weighs around 54,500 tons.
So, but the Nimitz class is bigger. Alexa, how much does a Nimitz class aircraft carrier weigh, please?
From executiveflyers.com. The Congressional Research Service estimates the aircraft carrier costs $13.3 billion, which makes it the most expensive aircraft carrier to date, and likely the most expensive ship ever
Alexa,
constructed.
the weight. How much does a Nimitz class aircraft carrier weigh, please?
From executiveflyers.com. Aircraft carriers weigh anywhere between 27,000 to 110,000 tons.
Alexa, what does the Nimitz class aircraft carrier weigh, please?
According to an Alexa Answers contributor, a Nimitz class carrier weighs about 99 million kilograms, 99,000 metric tons.
She changes this. 100, 101, 102, 99, give or take. So, copper hand tools, yes? All 65 of them. Alexa, I wrote this list down. Where is it? This is approximates, right? Because she keeps changing it. This is how many aircraft carriers each country has. So there's about 40. Then every now and again she says there's only 20. But then America has 20. Alexa, how many aircraft carriers does the US have?
From other247.com. The US has currently 10 operating aircraft carriers.
Alexa, could you say 10 for the US?
I don't know that.
Alexa, how many aircraft carriers are there in the world right now in service?
Here is an answer from an Alexa Answers contributor that I translated. 8 nations maintained 19 aircraft carriers in service in 2019, with the United States having a number of aircraft carriers, 10, greater than the sum of all other countries, namely the United Kingdom, France, Russia, China, Brazil, Italy,
Brazil!
India.
So that's... Alexa, how many aircraft carriers are there total in service right now?
From thebiggest.net, there are about 19 aircraft carriers in service around the world today with 2 in reserve.
8, 16, 17, 18, 19. Alright, so it could be 20, 21, 22 there. So Giza still has that. Alright, That's all of the aircraft carriers in the world. And Giza has got plenty more. Alexa, how much do submarines weigh?
From GoDownsize.com, a super yacht can weigh up to 100,000 pounds.
Alexa, what does a nuclear submarine weigh, please?
According to an Alexa Answers contributor, the Ohio-class nuclear-powered submarines displace 18,750 tons submerged, behind only the 48,000-ton Typhoon class and 24,000-ton Bore class of the Russian Navy.
So 30, 40, 50,000. Alexa, how many submarines are there on the planet? Ooh, secret.
From engineering.com, there are 10 submarines, with 9 serving in the Russian Navy and 1 in the Indian Navy.
Alexa, how many submarines does the US have?
The United States has 66 submarines.
So more than 9 then total.
Nuclear powered.
So 60. Alexa, how many submarines are there total in the world? Roughly.
From globalsecurity.org, there are 40 countries operating over 400 total submarines today, which approximately are assessed to be 75% of those are assessed to be modern submarines.
Alexa, how much does a modern submarine weigh?
Here is an answer from an Alexa Answers contributor that I translated. Modern submarines have different dimensions depending on their size. The largest submarines of the Russian Project 941 weigh around 48,000 tons. Smaller submarines weigh 2,000 to 7,000 tons.
48,000 tons the biggest, can we see that? 48,000 tons the biggest. So there's roughly 400. 48,000 tons is the biggest. 7,000, did you say? The smallest, right? So what should we say, an average of 25 or 30, whatever. Let's just say the average is 30,000, right? Alexa, what's 30,000 times 400?
30,000 times 400 is 12 million.
$12 million. So that's 12 million, 48,000. So, submarines don't weigh more than the carrier though, do they? 48,000, oh yeah, but 400 of them. Alright. So there's more weight in submarines than there is in carriers. So that's not a good example. Because Giza doesn't weigh as much as 12,000 tons. She weighs 6.5 million tons, not 12 million tons. Anyway, oh, you know what I meant, all right? Giza weighs more than all of the aircraft carriers on the planet in active service right now. And that is what she's got left over, so more than double. Has anybody seen a carrier? Well, I've actually been on the USS Nimitz myself and a few others when I lived in Spain. They are big. Nobody's carving even one of those things out of any quarry using copper hand tools or chisels and hammers or anything else. And if you believe that they did after seeing this, get yourself checked in because you are living in the wrong dimension. You should be somewhere else in the twilight zone, in it. So we'll come back and maybe have a look at other reasons why the Egyptians didn't build the pyramids. But after seeing this, everywhere we go, all of these ships are coming with us, right? They're coming across the desert. They're being pushed, squirty water bottles to make them glide across the sand, aren't they? They're being pulled by 8 people, sleds, 900 kilometers of desert, loaded and unloaded off of boats. All of these. It didn't happen. It just didn't happen. But carry on with the absurdity. Laters.